And it kind of goes like that. And I'm going to give myself some little tick marks of making, like, if that's, the opening's going to be that wide, then that part, that little part before it tapers in, is going to be the same distance about. So I can measure that with my pencil. And so that's about here. And then this is about, what would I say, 3 times? 1, 2, yeah, 3 times. So 3 times this. So this is about proportions. 1, 2, 3. Some of you might be just really good at visualizing, and you don't have to go through all that if you've already had experience drawing and you can visualize and translate proportions. If you haven't drawn before, I really recommend going through this process to try to get the right proportion as well as the right contoured edges. And you know, I am trained as a sculptor, so I'm not the best at drawing, but I think that, you know, I've gotten good at it over the years of teaching it. So this is too high now, too big, the opening. I should have started a little higher, and this should be a little lower, so I'm going to start again, which, you know, you're beginning drawing, so don't feel like you're not doing well if you have to keep starting over. So I'm just going to kind of give myself the basic shapes here. And how wide is it to how tall these shapes are? So 1, it's almost, don't feel like that measurement is right. It's almost twice as wide as it is tall. Yep. So the width of my is a little bit wider, so I'm pretty good here. And then symmetrical about here. So that's about how wide the top part is going to be. This actually looks too far out, if this is the center line. Yeah, that was a little too far out, more like here. So it kind of gave me these markers here that this is where the opening of the vase. So it comes down, and here comes like this, and goes back up, comes down, and I'm a little bit big still, but I'm just going to go with that for this one. So I kind of have a general shape here, and then this general shape comes, this comes out, and so I don't really see the edge the way I do on this piece. This one, the edge just comes out from here, and sort of, this is kind of like the little bowl area of the vase, and then there's this bottom part of the vase, and the bottom part of the vase is not quite as wide as the top. So that's going to be my bottom here. This is about here. And I'm going to, you know, probably straighten some of my lines. And I can tell I'm too big here because look, this is like, this should be 1, 2, 3, and it's not quite. So I am going to fix this now. This kind of should be more like this. And this comes down. And this comes down. And this is too high. Too low, I mean. So this probably ends more like here. And these have these sort of lines here, which I'm not going to worry too much about right now. And this part of the vase is separated, and then I have a cut in, and that cut in is pretty severe. So I think maybe that's too severe. And now I'm going to and this is actually straighter and should be longer. And usually you don't want to have 1, 2, 3. Maybe that shouldn't be any longer. Maybe just a little bit. You don't, a lot of times when you're doing drawings, I see people starting their items at the very bottom of the page. That's really a very undesirable type of composition. So the bottom of my vase is has a curvature. So I feel like I have an okay outline of my vase, and I'm going to stand up. It's going to be a just slightly different angle, but I can start to sort of like go, okay. And this is a HB pencil, so it's somewhat light, and I can always go back, and I need to take off my glasses. Can't see what I'm doing close up. And this kind of comes like this and goes like that. And actually, I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment there. So this comes out like this, and then like that, and back in, and down, and out. And the curvature there. And I'm kind of going away from my original lines, but that's okay, because those were kind of sketched in to give me my proportion. And now I can put in some heavier lines that I'm committing to. And here, this, I can see the thickness of this, and as it comes down here, this one, because there's a little lip there, I don't see the edge, but I just see this coming down. And this part. And now these, okay, so this is wrong. I'm wrong here. Because look, doesn't taper. These go straight down. This tapers, but this is straight. So I did wrong there. And sometimes you don't realize that until after you've done it. So this side is a little bit better than that side. And what I did was, so this glass, I do see this like this, but it comes down like this, not the way I had it before. And this comes down yeah, about there. So that means that these are too wide. And you might be making adjustments like this. That's okay, because remember, I put these lines mostly in the sketch for my proportions. And now I think that I'm going to have to draw a line that goes from here to here, and then another line that goes from here to here. So this line, and this is why you practice drawing straight lines. And there's a little divot in my board that keeps making me want to go not in the direction that I want to go. And maybe I'm going to turn this around and do this one this way. So it's beginning to look like the vase. And I think that this needs more out to the side. I'm going to make this side a little bigger, because that's actually what I'm seeing here. A little bit wider. Well, this is a wider flare even than that. So that looks better, more symmetrical. These are too sharp edged. See how this is more curved? Mine are too sharp. So I'm gonna fix that. This one is closer, but still a bit too sharp. And this is more like this. And this, I think, should be a little bit straighter coming down. This feels off as well. Okay, so I think that I have the shape of it somewhat. I think this might be a little bit too big. I'm gonna take that down a little, because look, this is this wide. This should be about that wide. So here we go. So there's the shape, and I might be a little bit too much there, but I'm just gonna sort of maybe make adjustments on that as I do the outer edges. So this is now my 9B, which is my darkest. So maybe I should go first with this one. but I like to go the darkest first. I'm going to go the darkest first. And I'm going to make, well, maybe not. Sorry. I'm going to erase some of these extraneous lines more. And I don't like how that looks a little awkward, so I'm going to erase that and I'll fill it in when I get there. Kind of the same here. And I'm going to get my if you have an old makeup brush, these are good for brushing that off. So I do want to, I'm going to kind of make that. And put that line there. So this is what I mean by deliberate line work. I'm committed to the line. Here I'm put that bottom in, and I'm kind of I know that I'm doing these all the same, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter here. And this might be a little bit. So now I have everything the same. So I want to put in more line work that maybe has some emphasizes. So I see here really thick lines. So I'm going to do some thicker lines here where I see the edges more. And then I don't really see it so much there, but I do see a little bit thickness here again. And then maybe not so much, but more thickness there. And then I'm not so much over there, but then I start to see more thickness here. So I'm going to add thicker line here. And fix this darker. So you can see how I'm starting to vary the line. And here I'm going to lighten this line, and I'm going to use my kneadable eraser to do that. So sometimes drawing is an additive and subtractive practice. So now I'm going to use my lighter pencil to put this edge in, because I don't like the sort of scratchy look of these lines. So this is the basic shape, and if I look at it, I see that there's more lines, and I don't know how well you can see that, but I think you can see it's sort of ribbed. So those lines are going to be much lighter. They also happen in here. So there's kind of some, well, let's see. I don't want to put in any shading. So I just kind of want to put in the lines that I see, which very lightly I see lines that go so I'm using this pencil, my HB, because it's light and those lines are nowhere near as prominent as other lines that I see. So I see these on the outside as well. And then I see them here as well. And they kind of drift in and out. I don't see them completely. And then down here, I also see, and I might not put all of them in. I might even take out so they're not totally consistent, but a little more diffuse. And the contrast between this line and this line might be a bit too much, but this is the first time I'm drawing this, and I'm not going to draw it 4 times for you because I'm just going to finish this drawing and then make suggestions to you about how I could improve it, and that's what I would then do on my second one. And then when I drew that one, I would look at how I could improve it, do it on the third one, and then the fourth one. So you can see why I said that like 45 minutes at least, but I'd probably have been doing this for, I don't know, 15 minutes, so you might want to spend more time. When I look at this, I feel like this line is a little incorrect. It's too flat. I think it's a little bit more rounded at the bottom. See how this is more rounded? And I'm going to fix that, and at the same time, I'm going to leave some of that line not as prominent. And there, I think that fits more too. So maybe some of these lines are going to have a little bit more darkness. Because of the high contrast, too high of contrast. And so I'm kind of, I don't want to go that far because I have to do this bottom part. Maybe I'll do that first because actually I can see through the glass, the back end. And there's a thickness to it too. So this seems to be a darker line. Seems to be a darker line here, even when it's at the angle that I'm looking at it. So I'm gonna make this line darker and thicker than the one underneath it. And then here, I'm going to use the same pencil, but less pressure. And here, I'm going to use a lighter pencil for this line. And then I'm going to, and these kind of come down to this level, but they diffuse, and these lines are too distinct, so I'm going to lighten them. And I don't want them to just end up looking like erased lines, so I am going to go over them with this pencil. And it's okay if you see a little bit of erasure. There's a term for that. It's called pentimento. And pentimento is sort of like the residual marks of an artist's work, so the works in progress that you can see the, you know, like if you think of Da Vinci drawings where there's multiple lines and some erasures, it's referred to as pentimento. So don't worry if you can still see. Some of these are darker at the top, and then they lighten and sort of come in and out. And this one I'm going to go ahead and take it down. Another line here. And another line here. Just going to let this. So that's my vase. I think that when if I was going to redraw this, I would, and I'm going to do this here. I think that one of the things that I would do is here, these lines would be a lot lighter, and I would maybe my proportions on here are maybe a little bit off. Maybe this should be a little bit taller, the entire vase, so that this was a little bit, seems a little disjointed here, so I'm not sure what. So when I drew it again, I would pay attention to that area. But otherwise, that's a good start. And then I would do it over 3 times, and maybe I would not have these edges so heavy. I think also these lines are too dark here, so I would have those lightened, and I would just play with it in different ways each time I drew it, so that then I would have some experience in drawing this vase, because the more times you draw it, the faster it's going to go.